And you Mike, when they got finished with me at the meetings, that personal with them, or they had me in a group together, Reverend White, they would hurt my feelings. They made me angry. I never raised my voice or disrespected. I honored those men. I honored them. And I appreciate the fact now they challenge me. I think I'm a better man today because of how they talk to me. And when they got finished with me, Reverend White would always say, "Okay, let's go eat."
What made the difference in the approach?
The approach.
I mean, what made the difference? Why they would talk to you, they were truthful with you, but it sounds like we've seen, especially the statement about Reverend White saying, "Let's go eat." Was it? It sounds like you had an understanding that whatever they did was out of love.
Out of love, no doubt. Because after they got on my case, they showed me love afterwards. But while they was talking to me, my feeling was hurt. I felt bad. I felt like sometimes they should have been more nicer to me or what have you, understanding my position. But what I loved about those guys, I don't care what nobody say, when they got through ripping me apart, they showed me love. Dr. Bledsoe many days went in his pocket, say, "You need gas?" Threw it on his desk, take that, and call me young blood. Put that in your pocket, because I know you're struggling. They've always intentional let me know how they felt. Dr. White called me one time, I never forget, after getting on my case, a couple of days, I never forget, his wife was in the hospital. He called me up, he called me a boy. "Boy, come to my house. I'm going to see my wife, and then I'm going to Mississippi. And then I want to talk about going to Mississippi with me." I go by his house, I get in his car, he started talking, we go visit his wife. Mrs. White, the first Mrs. White, she landed in the hospital bed. I never forget, she's the sweetest woman I ever saw in my life. And she said, "Go to Mississippi with my husband and keep an eye on him for me." I said, "Okay, Miss White, I'll go." I got in my black Honda Accord after he left with his bus of true love, and I went to Mississippi. And when I got to Mississippi, I carried his grip. I took care of him. And when I left Mississippi on my way back, I did not know Dr. White was that kind of person where he thanked me for coming and supporting him, and thanked me for carrying his grip and how much he appreciated it. And then reached in his pocket and said, "I want you to put this in your pocket because I know it cost you to get down here." And he covered my costs. He paid for the hotel, he paid for my gas, and gave me a little extra. He didn't have to do that, and I didn't expect it. I can just name hundreds of things they did. Pastor Walker, a lot of folk thought Dr. Walker, Sam Walker at Jerusalem, was a mean fellow. He was so stern. But that man was a big old gentle giant. He would get on my case, and when he saw he hurt my feelings, he'll call me. He never did apologize. None of them never apologized to me about nothing. They wouldn't apologize, the kind of guys. But they would call me up and talk to me, ask me how I'm doing, how my wife's doing, what the kids doing, and that kind of stuff. And they would invite me to things that was outside of the church. And they was like my fathers. My original dad, my father, never been a father to me. So it was those kind of guys that really played that fatherly role that caused me to be the kind of man I am. And I think I'm a better pastor, a better community leader, and a better pastor because of what they poured in me.
So what's changed today?
What changed today, I think pastors have received churches and they don't understand what the struggle is. They'll get offended at me saying that. They don't understand the struggle of building a church, dealing with people, dealing with all those minds, to how to get this volunteer group to come to do what we got to do. They're in churches now that have already been established, paid off churches, churches that are free from debt. And to me, they're more like a kid going into a candy store and picking whatever they want. And I think spoiledness come with that. I think a sense of arrogance come with it because they're able to do things, to live in homes that the old guys built, not necessarily built, but built the church where it could responsible take care of a pastor. And I don't think the greatest pastors in the biggest churches. I think the greatest pastors is in those churches that have the struggles because they give their life, they give their heart. They do it with no cost. They give back to the church more than the church gives them. But now it's all about, what I see is about them believing that they're greater and they want to be Well, I say it like this, top dog.
What needs to happen, and what is your role in the future of the church in Fort Wayne?
I'm going to challenge pastors, and I think they know I will. Anywhere, anytime, I'll challenge them. I make them angry. Sorry to do it, and they got nothing to do with me not loving them. They got nothing to do with me not glad to see them. I love to see preachers. I love preachers. But I've been raised, you got to get on the preacher's butt. I just do it, probably because that's how I was raised. And I've been in town long enough, pastor long enough. If I see something, notice something, I don't hesitate to tell the pastor what I see and think. I do it in meetings, outside of meetings. He may comment. I used to pick up the phone, call pastors. Reverend, I don't know about that. These guys now, I think, not all of them, I want to make that very clear. There's about 10 or 15 that I'm dealing with that I believe have personal issues. It's all about them. I would tell them in their face, and I would challenge them to take that gospel that they preach and examine themselves. You know, Mike, when I first started preaching for years, and I think I didn't get this until after I started pastoring, got in this building, I'm in now in 2000. I just get up and preach, and I always think folk ought to do what I tell them. It's easy, it's simple. And I forgot one piece of it, because most of my sermons at then, upon the finger. And when I got sick in '07, and when God put me aside in the hospital by myself, and I could feel God approaching me, and I'm still been going through this process from '07 up until now. But when I come in this apartment by myself, and sometimes I hate coming here, and I tell God this: will you please not meet me at my apartment and bother me today? But when I get in here by myself, it's an automatic. I'm talking to God and He's talking back. And God shares stuff with me. So spiritually I've grown. And I learned that now when I preach, that sermon got to be about us in the room and not about those that's looking at me. Because I've been so used to being me until I never recognized me in that Bible. Now I'm recognizing me on what I got to get straight. And that's why I've been not effective getting folks saved, because I got to get me straight first. And I really believe a lot of preachers in the pulpit ain't got themselves straight. It don't mean they're not called. It don't mean they're not saved. But I do want to share with, I will share with any pastors, got to examine yourself, brother. Because if you're going to study that word, it got to beat you up before you can dare go and tell folks. I don't know how no preacher can preach now and study, and it ain't affecting me. If a preacher call me off and don't talk to me, don't want to fellowship with me, don't want to see me, that make me question, are they preachers? Are they godly? Because a godly man, I can't push people away from me. And I sent all of them, I sent several pastors a letter of an apology of anything that I may done that was not correct. I want to make sure that I cleared myself up spiritually. And there's only one pastor called me to respond to that letter. Other 2, 3, 4 of them came to a meeting, and when they walked out of that meeting, I have not heard from them since. And they came because there was a Baptist conference. I sent a letter to that president, and he announced it. And they came because there was some pressure or felt a need of coming. But now spiritually, in a relationship, if you're upset with someone that has a problem, you ought to try to resolve it. I made an attempt to resolve it, but those guys have not.